People, Deluded, I'm back again. Now I hope this is something of nothing, but nonetheless, might as well speak about it. I've come across an article online. Sam Greenwood of Arsenal is interested in AC Milan and Juventus. First and foremost, it might just be paper talking nonsense, but there might be truth in it. If you look away from them two sides, if they're interested, then a whole bunch of other teams, which I think he would cut his own in these teams, but it'd be, if I said Madrid, I meant Milan and Juventus, people, but Greenwood would cut his teeth in the academy. But if they're interested, with the theme that's been happening with young players, you've obviously seen them go off to particularly Germany and other places like that. Could scouts be looking, people? Because last season there was record 30-40 scouts out under 23s games. So these German scouts and all other country scouts, they know who Greenwood is, and all academy players, not just him, they are having a radar. Apparently the two clubs in question are interested off the back of him playing well in the England's under 17s championships in the summer, which was a disappointing tournament for England. We went out in the group stages. I think Greenwood did good. I think Noni Madueke, I can never say his name, formerly of Spurs of PSV, was good in that. Disappointing we didn't get to see the now departed former Arsenal young player, now Valencia Musa. Aziz did okay. Yeah, it was just tough, man. But I think Greenwood's a good player, man. I feel, if I was Greenwood, I wouldn't go to Juventus or Milan now. His parents or his advisors or whoever advises him knows best. But potentially it might. I want him to stay at Arsenal. I potentially feel, right now, let's just let him develop. I feel he needs to have a step it up, not step it up in terms of his lacking application, but I know he's got the ability in there to play to that level where every coaching staff, Gardner, everyone at Arsenal, that's the name on their lips. They're saying Sam Greenwood, to the point Emre goes and he's obviously checked him out, but he has to check him out himself, sort of thing, because it's not just about ability. I want to see him do that, people, and I think he plays good in stages in games, but I think he can up it a bit out. He's got the potential, and he is a wonderful player, and he is wonderful. Look at his goal scoring stats in front of goal, people. Potential is just potential, but I really hope he develops, people. And just to humour you guys, if them two clubs are interested, I would want him to make it at Arsenal, and I hope he does. But with the current trend of particularly English youngsters, you've got to think, what if I did go to Germany? What if you've seen a former teammate of sorts in Amici, and it's not happened for Amici of sorts at Hamburg, but he's gone there. You've seen like Jadon Sancho, you've seen other players going and things happening. Could it be worth going where there's a pathway, sort of thing? And you've probably seen at the time of making this vid, Bobby Duncan's whole stuff with Liverpool, and with the whole Florentina interest and whatnot. So it could be something because of the competitive nature. Because from what I've seen of Sam Greenwood playing at Arsenal, I think he's the most ball-footed player in this club. I think he's probably one of the best free kick takers, and that's including senior level within this club. The free kick alone, people, he's a very good striker of the ball. He's very cultured. If he can just harness his potential, he could be a quality player. Personally, I think he could have a great future as a 10, people. I think he's very good at that. Predominantly, I've seen him play on the right-hand side for Arsenal. He can play on the left. He's made a good name for himself, and I'm sure he wants to play up front. He knows how to score goals. At Arsenal, you've got him. You've got Balogun, who's assuming that on the basis that he's been playing 23s, and Greenwood hasn't really liked that, is ahead of him. You've obviously got Eddie, who you would bet is ahead of him, and Tyrese, who went on tour, is ahead of him. So there's 3 strikers, 5 if you include Lacazette and Aubameyang, people. You could even throw Martinelli because there's talk of him being a striker. Does he look at that and say, alright, cool, I came through at Sunderland, I could have stayed there, but I've challenged myself, come to Arsenal, trained under better coaches in a more competitive environment. I've learned what I can learn. Do I now go somewhere where if I'm not playing straight away, I'm not saying there's not a pathway here for myself, but where they're going to accelerate my thing? Because you look at Musa, who was a former teammate last season. He initially joined Valencia's youth side, but he's now playing for their reserves and trained with the first team. He's 16, so we got to keep it in a bit. But do you get it, people? I'm sure many of these young players don't expect to play straight away, but there has to be a pathway. I don't feel Greenwood can be ignored before too long. I think he's a good player. He's only 17. We've got to be careful and let him develop. I feel if he definitely over this next year as a second-year scholar for the under-18s, the best season he could potentially have is obviously playing for the first team, but probably be continuing his great goal-scoring form for the under-18s, and And I'm looking to him as a second-year scholar and all the second years really to try and get us to the FA Youth Cup final, because I believe there's no reason we can't do it. I know there's some great sides in City and Chelsea, but I want to do it. So I'm looking to him to try and do that with the team. Obviously retain the league title that we won at that level. Of course, he wants to step up into the 23s not before too long. I really think he could be a 10 people. Him and Emil, if they develop, you never know what could happen. I really like him in them creative little pockets. I don't think his future necessarily has to be as a striker. Equally, it could be people. You never know. He's been predominantly played on the flanks. I don't think he'll be a winger, but he's decent out there. I just think he's got up it a tiny bit, but I think he's got a good future whether he makes it here or elsewhere. And I hope it's here, because I wouldn't say he's been forgotten about because we know he's a baller, but the hype is with other players, and you don't know me, I don't advocate hyping young players. I want to develop them all. I love Sam Greenwood, man. I think he's a baller, and definitely don't want him to join Madrid and Milan and whatnot. If he does, it's another thing, or goes elsewhere. But I want him to stay. But could he be tempted to leave? He's obviously signed a pro deal. Obviously, like I said, he's fighting if he does play up front with 3 other guys, excluding the first team strikers. He's yet to really get a consistent look in the 23s. Could he go somewhere where there's another pathway and whatnot? Because he's developed at Sunderland, was a big fish in a small pond there. Come Arsenal, developed himself, played with better players and whatnot, and them sort of things there. And then could he look to go to Leipzig or something like that, where the next step is eventually, before too long, getting some first team appearances, training on a consistent basis with first team regulars, because that brings your game up. Look at Tyrese John-Jules. He's a baller for me, people, but you can evidently see, since he's been obviously manoeuvring with Lacazette and training with Emery and whatnot, he looks sharper. He looks, it's all about off the ball, and Greenwood obviously needs to introduce that. But I think Greenwood can have a future, people, whether it's here or elsewhere. I'm not saying he can be world class and all of these sort of mad things. That's just down to him to work. But I think he can be a good player at some level, people, and I hope it happens here and whatnot. And he's a player we can be excited about, people. But it is what it is. Maybe if these clubs do come in for him, Arsenal, I can't imagine they paid an enormous amount from at Sunderland. If they make a profit, they make a profit. And we did sell Mavididi to Juventus, completely different circumstances. But yeah, hopefully Greenwood don't leave, people, though. On that note, people, Deluded, thank you for watching and rocking. I'm out, though.